What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What's going on, everyone? I hope we are all doing extremely well. What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. What's going on? I hope we are all doing extremely well. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying your day. Currently, it has officially been a week with no baseball. It's last Tuesday. The end of the World Series, and it's officially been a week with no baseball. I am pretty much sitting here twiddling my thumbs saying, I need baseball, but the only thing we have to talk about is predictions and assumptions and the offseason, and that's great. I love that, but we are going to see what can go on. But before we get started, everyone, in today's live stream, it is going to be a Q&A weekly live stream. In case you missed last week's stream, I stated that I want to start doing these live streams, during the off season. There's not going to be a whole lot to talk about, especially for November for the most part, before the winter meetings. So I want to do these streams weekly, maybe 2 times a week. We'll see. However much, just connect with you guys. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, connect with you guys in the comment section, express some of my thoughts and possibilities, some predictions, and of course, some news. But before we get started into all of that stuff, please, everyone, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications. If you are new to the channel, tell your friends about this channel, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, drop them below. Any statements regarding to the Mets, the Phillies, the Dodgers, any team, regardless, I can care less if they're Mets or not, drop them below, and I will try to the best of my ability to answer them. So let's stop wasting any time, and let's get into some New York Mets news. As you know, we have a lot of news to go over with the Mets. Some stuff has been going on. So pretty much with the Mets, we could see they have been having some news. I think we'll go with most frequent news. The most frequent thing that went on with the Mets is that we saw Jeff Passan released on Twitter that Michael Conforto will not be accepting the qualifying offer. That is right. Him and his agent, Scott Boras, who is a tough guy to deal with, will deny the qualifying offer, which consists of 1 year, $18.4 million. He will be declining that. What does that mean? Well, that means he will be a free agent. That is right. He will be one of the few lefties, as well as one of the few outfielders that actually has good talent that will be on the free agent market. So that is the big thing. Of course, Noah Syndergaard is still questionable. We do not know what is going to go on with Noah Syndergaard. Noah Syndergaard has until Sunday to accept or deny the qualifying offer. However, it looks more likely that he is going to accept it. I will be uploading a video in terms of talking about it more, talking about it more to an extent. I will be doing a video of that. So we know that is out of the way. We know that Tomas Nido, in terms of some injury news, we know that Tomas Nido will not be getting surgery. We know that this season he had a lot of issues with his thumb, his hand, and we know that he had a sprained left thumb for most of the second half. He will not be getting surgery, and it is reported that he will be set by spring training. That is good news. We know James McCann has been terrible this season. Obviously, Tomas Nido really stepped up, so good to see Nido be able to play. So, yes, very good. Not a whole lot of news, so those are some 2 things. We know our friend, Luis Rojas, the former New York Met manager, will actually be staying in New York. What? What do you mean? Well, no, he will be staying in New York, but he will be going across town to the Bronx. Luis Rojas will be the New York Yankees' third base coach for the Yankees. That comes to a huge shock. Not many people expected him to go to the Yankees. Very, very good. I guess if you're a Yankee fan, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure most of you Yankee fans are familiar with Luis Rojas. Good to see. And I guess the biggest thing that I do want to go over is with Chris Bryant. We know that Chris Bryant has said that his agent is Scott Boras, and Chris Bryant and his agent, Scott Boras, will be having some talks potentially with Luis Rojas, with the New York Mets. Chris Bryant potentially may be coming to the Mets. We know that has been pretty much stated a million times already this last couple weeks, so it kind of comes into question, how much do you want to take of it? We know that it's been questionable since the trade deadline and even last offseason. So yeah, Chris Bryant and the Mets have been in the same sentence for pretty much a year now, so I won't believe it till I see it, but who knows? Like, I really thought Chris Bryant would realistically stay with the Giants. I thought that he would have made a much better fit there. I gave my reasonings why. Chris Bryant is young. He's in prime age. The Giants have a lot of veterans on that squadron. So, if you're the Giants, you are going to want to and try and preserve all of your prime players, especially since the Giants just now realized that, Buster Posey will be retiring. Kind of a surprise. Did not expect Buster Posey to announce his retirement this quickly. Kind of a surprise. So a lot to an extent has been talked about with the Mets. Not so much a lot has been done. We know there's been a lot of GM news. A lot has been going on around the National League East. The Phillies, outrighted a couple guys on their 40-man roster. We know the Braves have made some announcements with Ronald Acuna Jr. and Mike Soroka. They're off the 60-day IL list, so they should hopefully be on the 40-man roster most likely. Obviously we know the Houston Astros have offered Carlos Correa a deal, a contract. He is most likely going to accept that. That contract consisted of $160 million for 5 years. Being realistic, that's kind of insulting to Carlos Correa. Correa can easily get much more than $160 million. So kind of insulting to an extent, but you know what? The Astros, they don't have the biggest budget. So it kind of makes the most sense. So we're going to see how it goes ahead with them. Otherwise, I think that's going to be something very interesting. We're going to see where Correa lands. Most likely he will, to an extent, most likely be landing in 3 potential spots. And I will definitely be doing a video in regards to that. So we will see. Otherwise, that's really it in terms of Mets news and baseball news. It's been pretty quiet to an extent. Let's see what else is going on around the Mets. We know that there's been some GM talk. The GM meetings. The GM meetings are currently being taken place. It is a 4-day meetings with all the general managers around baseball. And pretty much as we know, the New York Mets, well, they have no one representing. They have literally nobody representing them. So Sandy Alderson has taken the initiative to go up there and pretty much present them for the Mets. That is kind of sucks to see. But you know what? It was expected to see. We know Sandy Alderson gave some press conferences these last couple days, and Sandy has pretty much been spinning the GM search with the Mets pretty much on the back of the car. So we're going to have to see how that goes. We know that the Mets pretty much stated that they're going to move away from the president of baseball operations search, and they're going to look at a general manager search. Does this upset me? Not really, because I think you need a GM more now. Sandy Alderson has been the president of baseball operations, so you could make moves. I just feel it would be harder to make moves if you have him in both positions. However, that is going to create some issues down the line. But obviously, those are issues that I'm willing to obviously go and just work through now so you can get someone in that role. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to really have to see how that goes. It's going to be long. It's going to be frustrating. So we are going to see. We know, you want to try to get someone in good. There's been enough chemistry issues with this team. So otherwise, we're going to have to see how it goes with the Mets. They're going to have a long, pretty tough upcoming next couple weeks. It is going to be very, very, very frustrating. Trust me, Met fans. If you thought, this year was tough, well, get ready for the next couple weeks because it's going to be a Twitter nightmare, pretty much, with the New York Mets going around baseball. It is going to be a Twitter nightmare. So that's really it in terms of Mets news. So obviously, I'm going to go over all your guys' comments, questions, concerns. I see we got a couple good comments. Great audience, as always. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. So if you guys have any comments, questions, and concerns, drop them below. Do not be scared. Obviously, I go over every single comment, question, and concern. So if you have any, questions, comments, or concerns, drop them below. One other thing I did want to mention with Justin Verlander, we know that he has been briefly talked about potentially coming to the Mets. Pretty much Justin Verlander had a throwing session down in Florida yesterday, and there were about 15 different teams that sent, whether it was executive or scouts, to go watch him. And they said Verlander looked pretty sharp. His stuff looked good. Obviously, the velocity wasn't there, which makes sense. Regardless of his age, and obviously regardless of he's coming back from Tommy John, so you can't be throwing 100 miles per hour, which he wasn't really doing anyways, but that's besides the point. Verlander looked good, so there was some question, should the Mets possibly obtain him? I have been talking about Verlander a little bit in my streams the last couple days, so if you guys have any comments or questions in regards to Justin Verlander, let me know them below. I'd be interested to see what you guys have to say. Obviously, he is going to be 40 years old, I believe, when the season starts. So that kind of comes into question is, would you want a guy like Verlander? We'll see. But yeah, let's get into some comments. What's going on, everyone? Gio, good to see you here, man. Loyal guy. Always see you in the chat. What's going on, brother? Appreciate you guys for tuning in, as always. Definitely means a lot. YouTube Productions, what's going on, man? Good to see you here. Good to see you. John, what's going on? Trey, what's going on? What's going on, Trey? Gio, what's going on? YouTube Productions. Connor, good to see you here. Coby, what's going on? Good to see you. NBM Videos, what's going on? NBM Videos is going to say Jays are getting closer to bringing back Simeon and Ray. Of course, loyal Blue Jays fan on the channel. Yeah. We know that I believe there has been some interest with Robbie Ray around Major League Baseball. So Blue Jays are definitely going to want to wrap him up. We know that Marcus Semien has won a Gold Glove at second base. What a season for Marcus Semien. He's definitely in the MVP race in the AL. He was a dude who you didn't really think too much of him when the Blue Jays obtained him earlier in the season. He was a shortstop. You had Bo Bichette at short, and you said to yourself, well, what do? They threw him at second base, and he really strived there. He played stellar defense, and his offense, the power was there. He had a great season. Definitely going to get some MVP votes, no doubt about it. He is a guy that you are definitely going to want to bring back. A lot of teams are going to be after him. You're going to have to give him a fair big deal, in my opinion, because you want him here in Toronto for a while. So yeah, Robbie Ray is obviously a guy who I think is more easier to work out a deal with, just because he's not a position player and you don't have to rely on him as much. So I think that'll be easier, in my opinion. But you never know. You never know. So we're going to see. That's going to be interesting. I'm pretty curious to see how the Blue Jays go ahead these next couple of weeks. Travis, what's going on? Good to see you here, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Full season at home and with Springer. Yeah, of course, man. Of course. George Springer, too. Springer was out for a little bit. But for the small amount of games he's played, he really strived well. Gio, what's going on? Yeah, I haven't heard Matt Olson. I heard Olson to the Yankees. I'm not putting too much thought onto it. I think Chapman has the bigger chance of getting traded just because Chapman he has a better value for teams financially. He's much cheaper. Where I haven't looked at how much time Olson has left, but I don't think it's as much. So we'll see. That's an interesting one, though, also. Mets talks again with Brian. I don't know whether to be excited or not. It's always the same talk. Yeah, for the most part, makes sense. Mets Club, good to see you here, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Stoney, what's going on? Good to see you here, brother. He says, here we go. Hi, brother. Let's hear some Mets news. I'm pumped. Yeah, of course. I wore a Mets hat just for you, man. I figured I'd put on a Mets hat for today's stream. I'm getting a couple new hats in the mail, so I'm excited for that. You guys will definitely be getting a hat video this offseason. Travis says, no more Conforto. Yeah, I mean, unless the Mets are able to work something out, but right now it is not looking. It is not looking too good with the Mets and Conforto. He will be a free agent. He will test the market. Does it mean he's not going to come back? No, but the likelihood of Conforto returning is getting slimmer and slimmer. Conforto is a guy who's going to want $200 million this offseason, and realistically, I think there's teams out there that'll definitely be a sucker to pay for it. And I don't even want to say sucker to pay for, because, I mean, he had one down year to an extent, and I think this dude is easily capable. I mean, Conforto is easily capable of really, really playing well in a season. He plays above average defense. He really just became a victim of the shift this season. And I say it in every single stream, and I'm going to say it in this one. If Conforto could go the opposite way, or the shift was banned, he would easily be a 400 hitter. But yeah, LFGM, of course. Karen, good to see you here. Devin, what's going on? Trey says, time to look into the Japanese outfielder, Suzuki, who plays right field and third base. I've heard of that. He costs cash, which Steve Cohen could do. Also, Chris Bryant can play third base, and all outfield spots both can help. 100% true, man. I agree with you, Trey. That is 100% true. I have to look more into Suzuki. I have to do more into him. It's kind of hard with these, what is like the MPO guys. It's kind of hard with them because you don't really get to see them as much, and there's not as much information about them. So I'm gonna have to do some research on him. But Chris Bryant is definitely a guy that I am familiar with. Chris Bryant, like I said, I think the Giants would be silly to let him walk, but I think there's a possibility he can come. Scott Boras is his agent. Do you want another Boras guy? Yes, no, maybe. It's going to be an issue when his contract comes. But Chris Bryant really, first half of the season, exploded, calmed down in the second half. We can see that. And, we look at the Mets are really a second-half team. So if you can get one guy who will really put up MVP-type numbers in the first half, I mean, that could really go a long way with the Mets. It really, really can. But yeah, 100%. And also, like you stated, Trey, Chris Bryant, he has the versatility to play third base. We know he said in the All-Star game he likes to play center field. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe if Nimmo doesn't pan out in center field, you could put him in left, and then you could put Bryant in center. You could put him in right field. I believe his OAA wasn't as great in the outfield compared to third base. But, some reps during the offseason and spring training wouldn't hurt. Who would you rather take at third base? Correa, Chapman, or Bryant, says Marco. It's a good question. Obviously, I think, two of those would be free agent, and one of those would be considered a trade. The trade would be Matt Chapman, and the two free agents would be Correa and Bryant. Realistically, I think the biggest option you would have to take is Carlos Correa. Yeah, I'm going to have to go Carlos Correa easily. LFGM, of course. Should the Mets explore Luis Castillo? Yeah, honestly, I'm going to do some more intel on Luis Castillo. We know he was a guy who was really trying to get pursued. Who was really trying to get pursued by the Mets this last offseason, and nothing really happened. Didn't have the best first half. I don't know if he was necessarily a spider attack victim. But let's take a little look-see at his savant. Let's take a little look-see at his savant. So, I mean, yeah, he actually isn't that bad. I mean, change-up fastball looks pretty up to par. He really limits barrels, so, I mean, that really prevents the long ball. 93rd percentile in barrel percentage. That's good. You like to see that. He has some high velocity, 95th percentile for fastball velocity. The walks could be an issue, so we see he has some command issues. I mean, you know what? You take a lot of these guys who are just about there, and you put them with Jeremy Hefner. I mean, it could really work. I mean, he gives up some weak contact, so, the BABIPs could be a thing, and then you have Nimmo playing so far back. I could easily see that being a disaster to an extent, but, I mean, I'm not going to judge him off of such little things. Realistically, I think it could be a possibility. I wouldn't really want to trade a whole lot for him, just because I feel like the Mets kind of have pitching. So, I mean, if the Mets were desperate for pitching, I'd say sure, but, we really have pitching for the most part. Obviously, I do want the Mets to start getting enough pitching so we don't have to say, oh, let's call up Robert Stock, because I thought those days were done. I thought those days were done when we had to call up Robert Stock and, the Corey Oswalds. I thought those days were done. And literally, we had backups. We had, 7 guys that could qualify for the rotation. Lucchesi got Tommy John, Jordan Yamamoto got out, Peterson got out. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, really, really what went down. So you're really going to have to think. Pitching is definitely something the Mets are going to need. Castillo is a guy who could be explored. He isn't a free agent, but the Reds said they are willing to part ways with him. Just means what are they going to want in return? So that means, we're talking at least one prospect that we talk about a lot on the channel. So definitely a top 10 prospect. Appreciate you tuning in, Brandon. Mr. Cool, Nito the Go. Of course, Tomas Nito's a legend. LFGM, of course. Mark Sears says, should the Mets sign Justin Verlander? Okay, so let's get into Verlander. Verlander would be a guy who Verlander is going on to his 40th age. He's been in the league for quite a while, so you like to see that. You really like to see Justin Verlander, a nice veteran. However, he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. That is a little bit of a concern. The Mets have had their fair issues with health and pitchers. I said it when the New York Yankees signed Corey Kluber last offseason. I said to myself, why would the New York Yankees pick up Corey Kluber, a guy who was coming off of Tommy John and struggling? I don't get it. I don't want to see the same thing happen with the Mets. Justin Verlander, he's a great guy in my opinion. He's 38 years old now. He'll be 39 when the season starts. He has a great arsenal, a great fastball, a great slider, a great changeup that he throws every now and then as a sweep away pitch to an extent. Overall, I just really question what we're going to get out of him. He's a guy who has thrown plenty of innings. I think he's approaching 3,000 innings. He's thrown 3,000 strikeouts. He's there. He's a fine wine. He still has his stuff. I just really question how much we can get out of him, and that's what I really come concerned to. So personally, if the Mets were going to sign him, it's going to be to a cheap deal, 1 year, and I would not want him in that rotation. I would easily put him in the bullpen. Put him in the bullpen with Rich Hill. I like that. You have some nice veteran presence in the bullpen. I like that. Chris Bryant has orange and blue written all over him. He does. He really seems like a guy who would play well in the uniforms. But we got 18 people in the chat. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Definitely good to see a good crowd in the chat as always. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns related to the Mets, the Phillies, the Rangers, anything baseball related, drop it in the comment section below. Baseball stream, let's get it. Yeah, I agree. LFGM, what's going on, Martin? Stoney says, in one hot landing spot for Correa to be the Mets. Yeah, I think that could definitely be a good spot. Absolutely. I think, we have to look at Correa. We've been talking about Correa a lot. Disappointing press conference interview by Sandy Alderson. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Because people keep commenting, so I can't see that. Okay. Yeah, disappointing. Yeah, absolutely disappointing. We didn't really see a lot with Sandy Alderson. He seemed pretty out of himself. He pretty much stated that he is going to pretty much skadoosh the president of baseball operations search and just go to the GM search. And that's fine. But I don't know. Seahawks with Jose. What's going on, man? You're a loyal Angels fan. Appreciate you tuning in. What do you see my Angels doing? Well, Angels need pitching. Flat out simple, Jose. I'm sure you know it. I know it. The Angels need pitching. They're a team that pretty much have the offense. I mean, we really saw what Ohtani did this season. He put up MVP. He literally is going to be the MVP. He put up those numbers. Trout wasn't there. So imagine you had Trout and Ohtani together in the same lineup when fully healthy. I'm talking 100 home runs, 220 RBIs. That could be deadly. They just have no pitching. They have literally no pitching. Andrew Cobb had a nice chunk of the season, maybe. Andrew Heaney was no. I mean, the Angels, they get their offseason but they just have no pitching. Like, I mean, if the Angels really want to show something, I mean, this division could potentially be up for grabs to an extent. Besides the Astros, I mean, the Mariners are getting up there. The A's are still questionable in the air, and the Rangers are doing whatever. But like, you look at these free agents, and I mean, listen, I understand if you don't want to spend money, sign Justin Verlander. I mean, you have so many options, the Angels, and they just kick it away, and they just don't do anything. So you really want the Angels to start doing something. I mean, I hope realistically, Jose, that your Angels can try and get some pitching. I think offensively, maybe a nice bat in there, a nice top of the order bat, nice lefty bat could be nice. I mean, Joe Adell should be called up. You have Joe Adell, you have Mike Trout, you have Shohei Ohtani, David Fletcher. That's good. You just need pitching, and it's not what they're going for. So pitching, I really think pitching is the best thing. All I know is that the clubhouse needs a true veteran leadership. Whoever the Mets feel they need to pursue, I'm all for it. Yeah, 100%. LFGM, what's going on? Quentin, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in. He says, I'd love to see Verlander in a Mets uniform. I've been fantasizing about it since 2012, but I wouldn't want to sacrifice our 14th pick in the draft for him. The draft is coming up as loaded. 100%. And that is the big question. He has the qualifying offer. No, he doesn't have a qualifying offer. Never mind. Or I think he has a qualifying offer from Houston. I agree with you, man. Obviously, this farm system, I believe, has a lot of guys. I want to say outfielders. I believe I heard this is a very good outfield draft for, obviously, outfielding prospects, and that's what the Mets need. They do not have many outfielders available in their farm system. So, yeah, otherwise, we are going to have to see what goes on. The draft, the Mets pretty much had a pretty unfortunate draft for the most part. This past season, we know that Kumar Rocker was really what the whole draft was based on. And look what happened. The Mets built their draft. They built their draft day, whatever you want to call it, around Kumar Rocker. And that's a whole other story on what actually happened. And look what it did to them. It sucks. But I agree with you. Mark here says Crawford winning the Gold Glove over Lindor. What do you make of this? Yeah, honestly, I was pretty surprised to hear that. Yeah, I did not expect Crawford to win it. I didn't even expect Lindor to win it. But you know what? It seemed Brandon Crawford had a good season for the most part defensively. Let's look at his stats from the defensive standpoint. Brandon Crawford this season posted some adequate enough numbers. 99th percentile for OAA. He had a good defensive season. Okay, that makes sense. Nah, he had a good defensive season. I'll let him have it. Man, I don't know if it was better than Lindor. Yeah, nah, the OAA, looks good. Marco says, I really hope that the Mets and Conforto and Boris could work out a deal. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see. Boris is a tough guy. He really tries to push his free agents to go for the free agent route. He did it with Strasburg, did it with Scherzer, did it with Harper. I think he even had A-Rod. So it's going to be a tough route. Personally, Scott Boras is also with Chris Bryant, so we're going to have to deal with him a lot this offseason. We'll see, man. We'll see. Appreciate you tuning in. Baseball's Mayor. Stoney says, I hope we don't try to get Familia back or I'll go nuts. Yeah, I don't know. Knowing the Mets, they're probably just going to bring him back because, he's been with this team for a while. I wouldn't put him in like a setup man role anymore. Honestly, if the Mets are to bring him back, it's on a triple. I mean, it'd be embarrassing to give him a triple A, like a minor league option, but the Mets have wanted to get rid of this dude since he was even in Oakland. I mean, that just shows you how much of the Mets and Familia. I've seen him with my physical eyes blow games. Regardless, I just don't know how much he's there. He had a great first half of the season, and second half, he was blowing lead, barrel giver, home run, surrender pitcher. And it's unpredictable with Familia. I mean, they put in Familia in times where the Mets have not much of to an extent, a close game, and you just don't expect it. And, a 3-run homer, give up the lead. Mets fans MB, what's going on? He says, I think we get Brian. Potentially, obviously the Mets and Brian have been in the same conversation for quite a while now. So I'm not thinking too much about Mets and Brian. I mean, they've been saying that since pretty much a year already. But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, I think Chris Bryant is a fair option at third base. But the Mets have been saying the same thing for a year. I never really went over Chris Bryant a whole lot on this channel. We know he's a great, versatile guy. You could put him in center field. You could put him in right field. Oh, no, yeah, I did go over him. Never mind. But yeah, I mean, I would love him. LFGM, of course. Appreciate it. I think we will get Bryant because we will sign Baez, and Bryant are best friends. I don't know if they're best friends, but that honestly would not be the worst thing in the world. I mean, and then you have two former teammates. So, that could honestly work well in terms of shifting. But then you got Baez, so it's not McNeil anymore. So, I mean, in this scenario, and somehow they do put McNeil back at second base, and you do have him at third, I guess that could kind of work. Yeah, honestly, I don't think that'd be the worst thing in the world. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. I'd see how that would work out. LFGM, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for wearing a Mets hat. Of course, man. Of course. Trey says, Conforto has his moments. For that, fans, we are grateful under the current Mets philosophy. I think it's important to establish his premise that we're no scare carrots. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. I think you got to look at it with Conforto is that, it comes to a point is where, the Mets are in a win now mode, and I think it comes down to the money. And I think for the most part, it's kind of sad at sports. Sports always goes down to the money, and I think that's been the situation with Conforto. It's just what I don't get with Michael Conforto is that this whole season, I mean, he really struggled. Well, not for the whole season, but he really did struggle to an extent in the season. His last game at Citi Field, he was so emotional on the field. He was so emotional on the field. Right? And he was saying how much he loves it here. And you think, okay, you love it here. You had it down here. Accept the qualifying offer. Take in the 1-year deal, $18.4 million, and call it. I just don't see why it has to be so big. I understand your agent's telling you one thing, but who's playing? Scott Boras or Michael Conforto? I mean, I'm not a baseball player nor an agent, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't know. That's just how I feel. I feel it really makes no sense, honestly. So it's kind of frustrating to see how this goes down, but I kind of question, should the Mets have just given Conforto the offer in the offseason? Would that have made him into a different player this season? I don't know. I don't really think there's a definitive answer on would Conforto have been a much player season or more productive if he had an extension under his belt, if he had a contract that was adequate enough for him and his agent Scott Boras. I don't know. Or would he have still been the same type of guy? I'll tell you this, it would have been hell. It would have been nuts to have seen Lindor and Conforto both get locked up on huge contracts and struggle in May and April and May. When they were, that's when we saw both of those guys really struggling. That would have been nuts. The fans would have lit them up. LFGM, what's going on, Trey? Boomer says I'd offer for Verlander. Yeah, it really just depends what you're going to give him. It's obviously going to be like a year deal. It's not going to be anything. It's not going to be anything crazy, I think, with Verlander. I'm thinking like a year deal, maybe. What's going on, AB? Sean, go. What's going on? Good evening. Appreciate you tuning in, Sean. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Travis says prediction for the Mets starting pitchers for 2022. It's a good question. So obviously we have Jacob deGrom in the first spot. That is the most reasonable one. Second, you could really start to create and dig up a rotation. You could argue Marcus Stroman. I say Marcus Stroman would be second. Third is where you could start to be creative. You could potentially think Syndergaard. Will Syndergaard be able to go as many innings as he was in 20? Well, really, will Syndergaard be able to go as many innings as us Mets fans hope to see him? Syndergaard is a guy who only pitched 2 innings this year and only pitched maybe 2 dozen, 3 dozen in AAA. So, I mean, you're talking about a full season. So the Mets have a lot of injured guys that are coming back from injuries or still recovering from injuries in their rotation. So, I mean, you got DeGrom, you got Stroman. Those two are solidified, I think. If they bring Stroman back, of course. Then he could easily be the second starter of mine. You got Syndergaard potentially. You got Taijuan Walker still. You got Carlos Carrasco still. Hopefully David Peterson should be healthy by then. So you still have him. He's easy and nice. David Peterson's more so the lefty guy who, is usually the fourth or fifth starter in my eyes. And then, I mean, we'll see. Joey Lucchesi will be missing most of the season. I mean, you still got Jordan Yamamoto. He's more of a AAA call-up type of guy, maybe bullpen guy. If there's a doubleheader, that type of guy. But, yeah, I think that should be a fair rotation. I mean, it depends if they go out and sign anyone. To an extent, there are a lot of guys on the free agent market that are pitchers. Let's see, 2022 free agents. The Mets, yeah, they do have a lot of free agents, or MLB. So I guess the best pitcher on the market right now would be Max Scherzer. So there's Max Scherzer, Robbie Ray, Kevin Gausman, Stroman, Rodon, Syndergaard, Verlander, Kershaw, and Eduardo Rodriguez. So realistically, out of all those guys named, I think the Mets will bring back Stroman. We all know that. And, I mean, maybe I could see them getting a guy like Verlander. You could throw him in the bullpen. I mean, Rodon would be great. He did not receive a qualifying offer, so obviously they're probably going to want to wrap him up in extension. But pretty much, we saw that he was non-tendered by the White Sox, and then he was re-signed to a one-year deal, obviously, as we saw. Cheap deal. He fixed his mechanics very well, we know. Rodon's fastball definitely increased. The velocity, the sharpness of it, the movement of it, it looked really good. Otherwise, Rodon's stats look pretty adequate for the most part. Just another injured guy that comes into the concern. He has an injury-prone injury to be injured. So that's what you're going to have to observe at a lot with Rodon. So that's the one big worry. But he could potentially be a guy that the Mets explore, but I think he'll probably stay in Chicago. DeGrom and Verlander at the top of the rotation, followed by Syndergaard. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, if you would like 2021 DeGrom, like 2017 Verlander or 2019 Verlander, and like 2019 Syndergaard, it'd be awesome. But I just question two guys coming back from Tommy John. I mean, how much are you going to get out of that? I mean, maybe in the bullpen, yeah, that'd be dope. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting, Trey. Stoney says, do you think Thor will come back to the Mets? I do. I think it makes the most sense. The Mets have really worked so much with Noah Syndergaard throughout his whole time with the Tommy John process. And the Mets have really avoided guys on the free agent market or the trade deadline because they were uncertain what they were going to get out of him. So it would just be so disappointing for the Mets to just waste it and just say, oh, sorry, we couldn't work with you. It'd just be so disappointing to, really just to see. It really would. So, yeah, I really think the Mets are going to give Syndergaard the qualifying offer, 1-year deal, $18.4 billion. Trey says, what Met free agents is most likely to come back? Best year. Me personally, I think Baez. So what Met that is a free agent is most likely to come back? I mean, if you want a boring answer, I'm going to go Aaron Loop. He was a guy who was elite this season for us. I called him Elite Loop at some points. It's a guy, fastball is nasty, slider is nasty, nice submarine-style sidearm pitcher. Kind of throws, the timing off on when it's going to hit McCann's glove or whoever is catching behind the plate's glove. Really looks sharp for the most part in the season. I liked what I saw out of him. You put him in any situation. 2 outs, nobody on. He got the job done. No outs, 3-0 count, bases loaded. He got out of it clean. I mean, we saw an historic season from him. Gorgeous ERA, gorgeous whip, gorgeous FIP. Sierra, expected stats were probably not even as crazy as expected. Loop, I think he's the most clear and obvious kind who you have to bring back. But in terms of everyday players, yes, Javier Baez is a guy, of course. Coby says Adam Crombie for GM, yes or no? So he is a guy who has been coming up just recently today. He was a dude who has not been in baseball for about 5 years. He was with the Washington Nationals. and he was involved in their analytical department. I like that. I like he was involved in the analytical department. That looks good. However, he hasn't been in baseball for 5 years. So is he up to speed with what's going on? I'm going to have to take a big no on that for now. What's going on, Nick? Any news on Villar? No news on Villar. We know that he will be on the free agent market. Obviously, Villar's a guy who will probably get signed early in the offseason, like this month or early December. He's not really going to get a huge contract. He is 30, but he's more of like a versatility type of guy. So the Mets have the opportunity to go after Chris Taylor instead of VR. I take that opportunity, obviously. But VR is a guy you could really put him anywhere, but he's established that he wants to play every day, and I don't think the Mets can guarantee that to him. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they played together on the Cubs, so, maybe. Mets need to target Starling Marte and Nick Castellanos and a third baseman. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Castellanos is a guy who I would only really want on the team if he's a DH. Pretty much as stated, he's really only a DH type of candidate. Does not really have the qualifications to play an outfield defensive position for the most part, as we know. He's a guy, single number OAA, negative defensive run saved. That does not look good for a right fielder on a team that's trying to compete. We're going to have to see how that goes with the Mets. If there's a DH that lands, I would say 100% lands him. Otherwise, you have to look at it right now. I just really don't think that it would be the best choice, in my opinion. DH or really nothing. Alyssa, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in. Put Jeff in the outfield if we get Brian. Well, then that means you wouldn't put Brian in the outfield, so you'd put him at third base, and then you get Jeff. Yeah, I could see that. I think that would make the most sense because you really have nowhere else to put him. So yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Ice Cube, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in. Otherwise, we'll probably call it a stream in a little bit. If anyone else has any more comments, questions, and concerns, please feel free to drop them in the comments section below. Otherwise, we'll probably call it a stream here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Any more comments, questions, and concerns, drop them below. We know that the winter meetings are coming up, so obviously there is going to be a lot of stuff. Well, no, never mind. The GM meetings are coming up. Winter meetings are not till December, so that's for a while. Winter meetings are in December, and I think that's a little bit around the CBA. So we're going to have to see exactly. Will there even be a 2022 season? We know with the CBA, it's been a pain in the behind. So you really would hope to see that, the Mets could really, and just Major League Baseball could really just try to get a deal under their belt with the CBA. It's really nerve-wracking. It really is. Get into these final comments. Paul, what's going on? What's going on? Martin, Axon Jackson. Appreciate it, Stoney. Ice Cube says, have you already done predictions where the big free agents will be going? Not yet. I will probably be doing that on a live stream. The thing is, I don't want to get too much into free agency right now because it's like not much can really happen. So I don't really want to go too much into free agency just because not much could really happen right now. A lot of the deals we've been seeing have been small, guys like Andrew Heaney, Vasquez, those type of signings. So we're not going to see any big signings, the big bucks till at least December. So I'll definitely get it out probably this month. I'll do a live stream, maybe talk about, some big free agents where I think they'll sign, your guys like Carlos Correa, and then even, and then going on to, the other tier of Chris Taylors to your pitchers. So yeah, definitely going to have to do that, Ice Cube. Trey says he is a big bat we need. He has no compensation attached to him. He is versatile. He could play third base 2022 and then move the outfield when Beatty or Vientos are ready. So for Chris Bryant, I assume that is. Yeah, that comes to the question is, are you in a win now mode where you want to look at? So this is my thing. Chris Bryant. A lot of people are saying, and I talked about this with Correa and Matt Chapman last stream, a lot of us are focusing on the farm system. We're focusing on Brett Beatty or Mark Vientos. Vientos will be called up sooner. I think he's more ready, but I think more of the eyes and the talent and the gold is on Beatty. I would hate to see the Mets pass off on a guy like Bryant, Correa, Chapman, a really good defensive third baseman, and even good hitter, solid, for our farm system. I'm not saying that Beatty is or isn't going to work out, but Beatty is a prospect. Can he hit at the major league level? Can he perform at the major league level? I don't know. We're not going to see that till 2022, the end of the season, or 2023. Don't waste the time now that you have the opportunities to take for your future. Focus on now. Focus on getting a guy, whether that's Correa, Chapman. Don't focus on your farm. I don't want third base to be a distraction because, we have someone in the farm who could be called up in a year or two. I get it. It's great. But I don't want to see another lone Mets moment. Trey says re-sign Baez, Loop, Syndergaard, Stroman, and then sign Marte, Taylor, Gausman. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I would too, man. I would too. Alrighty. Yeah, so we're probably going to call it a stream here. I do really appreciate everyone for tuning in to the stream as always. Of course, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like button, turn on those post notifications. Hit that like button, turn on those post notifications, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you have to make an account for your dog, go at it. I always say that. I don't know why, but yeah, definitely do that. We had a great stream. I think we had a high at like 18 people in here at one point. So we're going to try to get to my active high streak at 21. We're going to beat it one day. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in. A lot going on in Mets world in terms of the front office. In terms of the day-to-day player stuff, it's been quiet. But the next couple days, next couple weeks are going to be very chaotic on Twitter. Very chaotic just with the front office, the GM position. And, of course, the GM meetings are going on. So not a whole lot of major signings are going to be happening. We'll see some more, minor league moves and, some minor bench, trades and obtainments in free agency. But, yeah, we're going to see how that goes. Otherwise, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.